Let's talk about the parts of a plant cell. Plant cells are eukaryotic cells that compose green plants and photosynthetic eukaryotes of the kingdom Plantae. Like animal cell, plant cell contains organelles that are bound by membranes. Let us start with nucleus. The nucleus, as indicated by number 1, is a membrane-bound structure that is present only in eukaryotic cells. The vital function of a nucleus is to store DNA or hereditary information required for cell division, metabolism, and growth. Here, the DNA cannot be seen. The nucleus, the whole spherical structure here, has three parts: the nucleolus, labeled as number 2, the nuclear membrane, labeled as number 3, and nucleopores, which can be found in a nuclear envelope. The nuclear membrane surrounds the nucleus like how the plasma membrane encloses a cell. Nuclear membrane is perforated with holes called nucleopore that allows proteins and nucleic acid to pass through, while nucleolus is a non-membranous structure inside a nucleus that is responsible for manufacturing the cell's protein-producing structures or ribosomes, as we will encounter later. The cytoplasm is a semi-fluid component of the cell that is external to the nuclear membrane. Everything here except this, and internal to the cell membrane. It consists of cytosol and other organelles that is suspended inside a cell. The term protoplasm is used to describe the association of nucleus and the entire cytoplasm. Mitochondria. These are the energy-producing organelles of the cell. It is a site of the cellular respiration, which is the process of obtaining energy through breaking sugars and fats in biochemical pathway. As you can see, it has two membranes, the outer membrane and the inner membrane. There are infoldings between these membranes called cristae that increase the surface area available for electron transport. It is interesting to mention that mitochondria contains its own DNA and directs its own organelle division. Chloroplast. Chloroplast is one of the organelles that is unique in plant cells. It is a specialized disc-shaped organelle surrounded by a double membrane. It is where photosynthesis in plants and some algae occurs. The disc-shaped structure here is called the thylakoid. It contains the pigment chlorophyll that is essential in photosynthesis. When these are stacked together, they constitute a granum. The space where these structures are held is called the stroma. The endoplasmic reticulum, or ER, is a network of tubules and flattened sacs that serve a variety of functions in plant and animal cells. The two regions of the ER differ in both structure and function. Rough ER has ribosomes attached to the cytoplasmic side of the membrane, while the smooth ER doesn't have ribosomes attached to its membrane. Via the attached ribosomes, rough endoplasmic reticulum synthesizes proteins via the translation process. Rough ER also manufactures membranes. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum serves as the transitional area for transport vesicles. It also functions in carbohydrate and lipid synthesis. Cholesterol and phospholipids are example. Here, we can see a vesicle that is about to leave the smooth ER. Rough and smooth ER are typically connected to one another so that the proteins and enzymes and membranes made by the rough ER can freely move into the smooth ER for transport and other parts of the cell. Golgi apparatus, also known as Golgi complex or Golgi body. The Golgi apparatus is the manufacturing and shipping center of the cell. It has several functions, including modification of several products from the endoplasmic reticulum. Examples include phospholipids and proteins. The apparatus can also manufacture its own biological polymers. A Golgi complex contains cisternae. Cisternae are flat sacs that are stacked in a semicircular bent formation. Each formation has a membrane to separate it from the cytoplasm of the cell. Large and small vacuoles. A plant cell vacuole is surrounded by a single membrane called a tonoplast. Vacuoles are formed when vesicles released by the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi complex merge. Newly developing plant cells typically contain several smaller vacuoles. As a cell matures, a large central vacuole forms from the fusion of smaller vacuoles. The central vacuole can occupy up to 90% of the cell's volume, while the central vacuole shown in the model are small and still in the process of developing into a larger one. Among the various functions that vacuoles perform in the cell is the control of turgor pressure. Turgor pressure is the force exerted against the cell wall as the contents of the cell push the plasma membrane against the cell wall. The water-filled central vacuole exerts pressure on the cell wall to help the plant structures remain rigid and erect. Imagine that if this central vacuole absorbs more water, it will push the cell membrane in contact with the cell wall, completely occupying the spaces here. Ribosomes. Ribosomes are cell organelles that function in protein synthesis. They are composed of RNA and proteins that form ribosome units, a large ribosome subunit and small subunit. These two subunits are produced in the nucleus and unite in the cytoplasm during protein synthesis. Free ribosomes are found suspended in the cytosol, while bound ribosomes are attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. It is interesting that mitochondria and chloroplast can produce their own ribosomes. Peroxisome. Peroxisomes are also known as microbodies. Structurally, peroxisomes are surrounded by one membrane that encloses digestive enzymes. Hydrogen peroxide is produced as byproduct of peroxisome enzyme activity, which decomposes organic molecules. Functionally, peroxisomes are involved in both the destruction of the organic molecules and the synthesis of important molecules in the cell. Cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton is a network of fibers forming the infrastructure of the eukaryotic cells, prokaryotic cells, and archaeans. In eukaryotic cell, which include plant cell, these fibers consist of a complex mesh of protein filaments and motor proteins that aid in cell movement and stabilize the cell. It comes in three different protein fibers: microtubules, microfilaments, and intermediate filaments. Cell membrane. The cell membrane is a thin semi-permeable membrane that surrounds the cytoplasm of a cell. Its function is to protect the integrity of the interior of the cell by allowing certain substances into the cell while keeping other substances out. It also serves as a base of attachment for the cytoskeleton in some organisms and the cell wall in plant cell. Thus, the cell membrane also serves to help support the cell and help maintain its shape. Cell wall. A cell wall is a rigid semi-permeable protective layer. This outer covering is positioned next to the cell membrane or plasma membrane in most plant cells, fungi, bacteria, algae, and some archaea. Animal cells, however, do not have cell wall. The cell wall has many important functions in cell, including protection, structure, and support. Those are the organelles and cellular structures that can be found in plant cells.